I never imagined that one sentence could terrify me so much. I'm sitting in my living room, shaking and listening to the tape on my Walkman, over and over again. I don't understand what's going on. Maybe you can help me. It all started last night when I was spending the evening with some friends. There was Sam, a childhood friend, and his girlfriend, Olivia. Cedric, a friend I'd made from work. Despite his shyness at the parties like this, he was actually pretty smart. Finally, there was Brad and Mia, a couple of friends I'd known for years, who'd already started arguing on the road. Considering the murderous looks on their faces when they'd arrived, they clearly didn't want to discuss it either. "Hey, what's this?" said Sam, pointing to the Walkman on my shelf. He stood up and grabbed it. "Is that a Walkman? Are you serious? I didn't know you'd become a hipster," he said, giving a laugh. "It's nothing," I said. "Just a cool thing I bought a few days ago at the flea market. I've linked it to these speakers, but forget it. Doesn't really work anyway." "Really?" he said. And with that, he pressed the play button. I already knew what they were going to hear. At least that's what I thought at the time. "Tell me, baby, why don't you love me? Tell me, baby." "Wow, that's incredible. I didn't know you could record recent music with that. Been listening to that music on loop for days," said Sam enthusiastically. I was speechless. Been trying to fix that Walkman since the day I bought it. It already had a cassette inside when I purchased it at the flea market. For some reason, no other audio cassette would work. Even the original cassette, that worked a little bit, only repeated the same thing over and over again when I used it. "Too bad. Wish we could have a little more fun together." I asked Sam to give me back the Walkman so I could have a look at it. Maybe he'd pressed something unintentional and had fixed it. I rewound the tape to the beginning and pressed play. "Too bad. Wish we could have a little more fun together," said the charming voice of a man I didn't know. "Well, looks like you got an admirer," Olivia teased me. I explained that since I'd bought it, the original cassette that worked had been repeating the same phrase over and over again, and that this was the first time I'd heard this song from it. "It's pretty weird," Olivia admitted. She picked up the Walkman and pressed play, listening. "Tell me, baby, why don't you love me? Tell me, baby." I took it back, rewound the tape, and pressed play. The same smooth voice repeated the phrase I'd always heard. "Too bad. Wish we had a little more fun together," it said. "Cedric, you know a thing or two about electronics. Would you mind taking a look?" I handed him the Walkman. He looked at it from every angle, puzzled but still trying to come up with some kind of explanation. Finally, he took a turn and pressed play. "I love you," said an older woman's voice. "Wow, it's getting hotter and hotter," joked Olivia. The three of us took turns picking up the Walkman, and inexplicably, the cassette tape played something different. Still the same for each person, for all of us, apart from Olivia and Sam, who were hearing the same music. After a while, even Olivia started to feel kind of uncomfortable. Sam thought I was playing a joke on them, but it wasn't hard to demonstrate that no trickery was possible, especially with a retro device like this. Brad and Mia, who had remained silent all evening apart from a few murderous glances exchanged, had started to take an interest in the discussion. "Would you like to try it?" I offered, handing him the Walkman. Brad took it, and we all moved forward in our seats, curious to hear what was about to happen. After a brief glance at us, Brad pressed play. "You fucking cheater! After recoiling from the tenfold increase in volume, we all slowly turned our heads towards Mia, who was standing right next to Brad. It was her voice we'd just heard screaming out of that Walkman. What is this shit? Where'd you buy this? Seriously, you've been fucking with us since the beginning of this evening. I'm sure of it. How did you do that? Did you use some kind of software or something? Spouted Mia in a rage. I didn't know what to say. I was as helpless as she was to explain why we'd just heard her screaming as he played the tape. She snatched it out of Brad's hand and pressed play. Her enraged voice came out of the speaker again, her face going white. I've had enough of this. Let's get out of here, she said. After that, Brad and Mia left. Couldn't do anything but apologize to Brad for the way the evening had turned out. I put the Walkman away and had a few beers with Sam and Olivia and Cedric, who had decided to stay. Clearly, the evening had taken a turn for the worse, though. We were all puzzled and still stuck on what we'd heard. Maybe it's the future we're hearing, Sam said. I mean, considering how often they bicker, wouldn't surprise me if that's the case for them, Olivia said. If it's the future, I don't know which one, because it definitely wasn't my grandmother's voice I heard, said Cedric. There was silence. After a moment, everyone stood up, bringing a premature end to an evening that had definitely not gone the way I had planned. I invited Sam and Olivia to sleep over, knowing they had some driving to do, but as usual they declined. I told them to be careful, then waved goodbye to Cedric, who still seemed lost in thought. That night I fell asleep with an uneasy feeling, and the certainty that I'd better throw away the Walkman first thing in the morning and forget the whole thing. When I woke up, I fumbled for my cell phone on the bedside table, but it wasn't there. I found it forgotten on the living room table, saw that I'd received a dozen texts and calls during the night. Couldn't make any sense of them. A voicemail had been left by a number I didn't have in my contacts. This is Sam's mom. I can't seem to reach you. Sam and Olivia were in a terrible car accident last night. They didn't make it. I stared at the wall in front of me, incredulous as Sam's mom sobbed into the recording. She was clearly having a breakdown. There was nothing left of the car. A truck ran a red light, apparently. There was only the radio, the car radio, that kept repeating the same music over and over again. I could hear it in the background when the ambulance was there. The words she uttered next made my blood run cold. Tell me, baby, why don't love me? Tell me, baby. I threw my cell phone on the floor. It was too obvious to be a coincidence. I'd already started to have doubts when I heard Mia's voice screaming in such rage. A murderous rage, to be sure. I've been pressing play and rewind for about an hour now. Too bad. Wish we could have a little more fun together. Every time I hear that phrase, I feel as if the suave voice of the man that I don't know is becoming more and more malevolent. You're still here. Thanks so much for joining us for tonight's spooky tale. If you'd like a little bit more spooky in your life, why not click on one of the videos that appears at the end of our story? Or maybe head on over to one of our playlists where you can get your fill of spooky content. If you like your spooky a little more tactile, I've got a new book that's come out. If you'd like your own copy, there's a link below in the description where you can get your own copy of my spooky book. If you like what you see here on the channel and think you might like to support in a more monetized way, then why not come over to Patreon or become a member on YouTube? Speaking of, let's go ahead and thank our members now. Thanks to Civ Garstad and Unicorn Hollow for being our spooky ghost contributors. Thanks to Janet, Lee Kendall, Saikat, Ronda J, and Sue Casper for being our spooky skeleton contributors. And thanks to Hi Stacy, Winter, Xaronan, Emily Coltsfoot, Stephanie Carrington, Tyler Parker, Cinnamon Fox, Sarah ASMR42, and Bella Lee for being our Ghostly Reader tier contributors. Thanks everyone so much. We just couldn't do the show without you. If you too would like to support the show, come on down to Patreon or become a member on YouTube. For just $5 a month, you get your stories 12 hours early at 8:30 a.m. as opposed to 8:30 p.m. Also, if you'd like to join our Ghostly Reader contributor tier over on Patreon, you get a book anytime I write one on your doorstep, as long as you live in the continental U.S., of course. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.